I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, Vanessa. From every conversation I have with you, we talked about the first time we ever stepped in a room together, and I was so intimidated by you. It was like, gosh, this woman is such a standout woman. She's such an amazing mom. We have so many differences. And what I've come to know throughout our friendship is we have so many differences and so many similarities. And there's so much that I look up to you for as a mom and as a human, as a wife and as a friend. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And thank you for that intro. I think I'm blushing. That was so kind. And I know we have so many similarities. In fact, like you're an Aries and I'm a Sagittarius, and we are fire signs and we are fiery about the things we believe in. And I just like love that about you. And I love how like forward you are. Conversations are the best. So I'm excited to like share that with the world.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, let's start there. So using that fire, take us back to where that fire first started, what your background was, how you stepped into motherhood that brought you up to what you're doing today.
Oh my gosh, the fire in itself, like we're all born with this powerful ability to manifest. And I think our fire is louder when we're younger, before there's like a lot of noise of the world. And I was thinking back about how I remember seeing things or feeling things and being like, that's for me, even as far back as like the fourth grade. There's just like this crazy story I'll tell really fast, that I saw the movie Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Do you remember that movie? And Christina
No.
Applegate? No? Okay, but I'm probably dating myself, but Christina Applegate has to like be older than her age and put on a fashion show. And I remember when I was in fourth grade, I was like, like my intuition was like, this is mine. For some reason, I know this is for me. And I remember that year the fourth grade put on the invention fair. And so my mom was like, well, what's your invention going to be? And I was like, a fashion show. I'm doing it. I'm putting on a fashion show. And she was like, that's not an invention, hon. And I was like, yes, it is. Every piece of fashion, every outfit designed is new to the world. And I was like so passionate about it. And I remember she just goes, and so it's crazy because it's not how I pictured things going. I ended up making a dog bowl with like a cleanable mat from Invention Fair. But fast forward to high school, I was bullied a lot, and I would hide underneath the staircase, the back staircase during lunch, and eat my lunch underneath it because I didn't want attention. And the clothing and design teacher started leaving her door open so that I could eat lunch in her room instead and like work on projects. And I remember getting just so into it and starting to design my own pieces. And I went to her and said, what if we put on a fashion show for the whole high school? And I went to a huge high school. It was 3,000 kids. And she was like, Mrs. Mitchum, she was like, you know what? That sounds awesome. And so we actually coordinated this whole fashion show. I even got like PacSun and Express and involved and auditioned models and did this whole thing and put on 2 fashion shows. But that is honestly like a really quick story about how like our gut knows, and it's talking to us, and it's saying like, oh, like I was telling someone, I picture Oprah, it's like a meme or something where she's like, oh, and you get one and you get one. Well, like that's how my gut feels when it like knows something's for me. So from a young age, I think we all have this like fire in us, but as we get older and we have experiences, it tends to get like muddied with other people's perceptions and logic in general, which is based on our prior experiences, but not necessarily where we're going, right? So a lot of our logic is there to protect us. And I think it's harder to tap into that gut and fire. And I know I totally went off on a tangent, but
no,
where I'm getting to is I have really practiced listening to that like Oprah yelling at me, like that, when I come across things. And I ended up in wealth management for 11 years, but I was like not entirely fulfilled. And I remember going in my office and there was a Wall Street Journal on my desk, and someone on my team had circled an article about Ami's song and the Song of Style and the rise of fashion bloggers. And now, like, being in finance, thinking, like, seeing that article and being like, hearing that, oh, I think this is for me. But that's so scary because I was on such a different path in my life. Like, how on earth am I going to be a fashion blogger? I've been at Morgan Stanley for 9 years. I actually was about to take on a position as a branch manager. And I realized I was going down a path out of fear of not of letting my parents down. Like, my parents were proud. They understood finance. They didn't understand fashion blogging. So, just really tapping into that feeling you get when you know something's for you, and knowing that the timeline is not always going to be what you think it's going to be. Often the timeline's not what I don't know, but what I do know is what's for me when I feel it and when I see it. And so I leaned into fashion blogging, and it was phenomenal. And it at first I actually asked my team to work 2 days a week. So I worked 2 days in the office, and 3 days I was home with my kids and building my blog. And that was, it was hard. So I remember feeling like pulled in every direction. And I think a lot of moms kind of relate to that, especially in the younger years when we are navigating like work and daycare, or like, are we going to keep working? Or also, I think once we have children, our time becomes a lot more expensive, because we're like, if we're not with our kids, then what I'm doing better, like, be good. It better be good.
Yeah.
Have like be a means to an end. It better be for a reason. So I really leaned into that, but I was being pulled in a lot of directions, and eventually I hit my goal. It's like right when I felt like I couldn't do all three anymore, something's got to give, and I hope it's not me. That's when I was able to leave finance fully and go into fashion blogging. And it was great. I mean, it was amazing. I traveled the world to fashion weeks, and I had a healthy 6-figure income, and I got to design and launch my own capsule collection, which was kind of a manifestation from high school, and it was beautiful. But around 2019, I started to feel that, like, this feeling of disconnect, even though I was connected. It was like a weird feeling. And I started to get those messages that I think like a lot of us know, especially if you're a business owner, if you use Instagram for business, you get the message like, I never see your posts anymore. I like and engage, but I don't see your posts. Like, where have you been? And it started to make me feel super alone. And then at the same time, a lot of research started to come out about connecting the rise in the suicide rates going up and the rise in depression. And I have research here saying how the more people are on social media platforms right now, the more disconnected and lonely they feel. And I began to sit with this, and that was 2019, and then 2020 hit. And it just became more obvious to me that there was like some really faulty functioning within social media that allows manipulation to take place, that we're not entirely in control of what we're consuming. And it's not necessarily for the better, So it was 2021 when I finally came out of this, like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I call it like my blue period. And the more I thought about the issues, the more I started to feel that, like, Oprah, like, oh, this is for you. I don't know how yet. And it slowly panned out in my head. And I asked myself, do I even really want to be in social media? I don't want to be a part of the problem. I started to really ask myself, like, where is my spot in this? And the more excited I started to feel about the solutions that I was thinking of, and how we can pivot social media and how it's actually fairly simple, because now that we know what works and what doesn't, we can make it in a way where we prioritize the feeling of connection and creativity. And so that was my last one. That was my last pivot. So I went from finance. Well, actually, in college, I was in interpersonal communications and sociology. So I went from that to finance, and from finance to fashion blogging, and I went from fashion blogging to tech startup. And there's power in that fire, right?
Yeah.
And being able to name it and say, okay, this is for me. I can't say how necessarily, but I can say it's for me, and just like move like it is for you. Take those steps.
And not letting other people put out your fire. Like from going from sitting underneath the stairs to feeling so alone, and then saying, hey, I actually want to put on this fashion show, and listening to that fire and having just one person reach out their hand and be there for you. I think that's what's so important. And that then put into social media similarly, right? There can be so much bad on social media, but there can be good when it's built correctly and done well. And we've seen that not hold up to the case, right? As we've gone through the different layers of social media, it hasn't been able to sustain what it needs with everyone else's needs of mental health, and knowing that you do have community and someone is reaching out their hand. And, I similarly can totally resonate with just being like, gosh, like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Those people aren't nice. And I'm going to stay on my path and my fire, and no one's getting it. And then how cool that you've been able to change and pivot, because I think so often when someone does have that Oprah ah moment, they then feel like they can't change their mind, that they can't change to something else. But maybe that's just actually part of your journey. It's not meant to be your end all be all, because if you'd never become a fashion blogger, it probably wouldn't have led you to see the problems in social media. It probably wouldn't have led you to be like, hey, I have a big following, so I especially see this. So it's really magnified for me as a content creator. And now I see the problem and I want to fix it. So let's talk a little bit more about that. This new venture that you're stepping into. Talk to us about, from the moment you had that Oprah moment to where you're at now, what has transpired for you, really not just being like, oh gosh, this is a problem, but saying, no, I'm going to do something about it.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the thing within, I think the big pivot as a entrepreneur, one of the things we have to get comfortable with is like the smaller pivots within your business where you maintain your values, like what the end product, what you're trying to accomplish. Because a lot of times that moment is connected to personal values. And what I learned is that my personal values are heavily connected to integrity, creativity, like creating in your innate way what is true to you, whether you are a photographer, a writer, like whatever makes you feel like you are, have that feminine energy actually. And then also connection. There was a Harvard study about how the number one contributor to humans' happiness is their relationships in their life. And that's not just like husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. It's actual feeling this like connection to other humans, a social aspect to our life. And if social media provided that and supported the way we are as humans, how extremely powerful for the good that would be. I realized that social media right now it started out with the purpose of connection, with this like one alleyway, but as it grew and everything they started to implement ways to create revenue. It created a wedge between people and the connection. It removed the connection for the purpose of revenue. And it doesn't have to be that way. Unfortunately, where we are now is it was like built backwards almost.
Yeah.
So keeping in mind that any business requires some level of revenue, how do we have that? But how does that work with the primary reason to be on social media is to digest and consume content that assists us in living our best life or assists us in who we are. So I mean, I went down all these pathways. And what's interesting is it started, it's called the F word. And the reason it's called the F word is it started for me as almost a media company for women that provides them with easy to reach content that empowers them. And the F's were feelings, fitness, fashion. It just turns out that there's so many F's that like flights that we like connect to, funny. So it was like, what's your favorite F word? And it was solely for women. But once I reached out and found a developer to kind of work through some things with me, the user experience, we started to really question if it is a woman thing. Because for women to feel supported, men are very much involved in that picture. And it's weird, but the thought that brought that to me was that my husband was hiring for his team at work, and he hired on a woman, and he had a female team. And I was thinking like of how organizations work and how we all support each other. And if I how do I put this? Like if I branched it out to everyone, how much more powerful that would be, how much more empowering it would be, because it's not just a female problem. It's all people problem. It's social media consumer problem, right? So it started out just a company for women. It evolved and became for everyone. And we worked through user experience and user interface. Slowly, we built it out. We did market research on each app on like what's working and what isn't, what should be integrated and what can be thrown in the trash, quite frankly. So we ended up building that part out. And after that, looked at how much the build is. And the build is quite a heavy lift. Building a social media platform is quite a heavy lift. So now I'm in the place of raising funds and bringing in investors to move to the next phase of the build and getting it into people's hands, which is the most fun part. So.
And thank goodness for you for going through the journey, right? Because so often we may see a problem and the solution's too much. It's too much work. And I know this has been a lot of work already for you, but it's necessary. It needs to happen. And you're not here to just, have something that a couple people use. You're creating something to change the social media game and to change the world, not just for us, but like you said, our partners, our future generations, everyone to come. And I love that you've opened it up, because even with Mama Has Goals, my husband and I talk about this all the time, is you only fix half of the problem, then you can't really fix the whole problem, right? You really have to bring everyone together in some way, in some form. And men need just as much, if not more, statistically speaking, mental health support than women do. And being able to create a platform that allows them to expand. And so let's talk about some of the features actually of the F Word app and how I know you've put some really cool things into place so that it supports your mental health and what content you see. Talk me through a couple of those things.
Well, first of all, it's to give you a visualization. It kind of functions like a combination of Pinterest and Instagram. And whoever can post, they've been approved to post. So creators, community leads, business owners have to go through a vetting process, a verification process to post. And that keeps out spam accounts, fake identity accounts, content that's distracting, not focused, not quality. It also gives accountability for the person that's posting because it's connected to who they are and their business. As we don't like to call them users. We call them explorers because you know what they say is that the only two industries that call their customers users are social media and drugs. So we're like, you know what? How about it's explorers? Sometimes they say consumers, but the explorers are people who can use it in like a Pinterest capacity where they save, can respond to content, and they also can be a part of groups where they can connect to other people who have the same interests as them. And a lot of it, what it would be is a creator starts a group or a business can start a group, and it can be segmented. It could be like, these are our customers that, you know, buy this type of product, or these are part of our women's community that are working moms. And so they can tailor content they share with that group, and that group can connect amongst themselves. Within the app, there's something called a vibe check. And if you've been on Insight Timer, it's something similar to that, where on the daily, you can respond to kind of how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. And you have two feeds. One's your Discover. And your Discovery feed is going to give you content that's fun based on your response to that vibe check. So if you're having a really bad day, you can be like, I am bad, I'm sad, and I just want funny stuff, and it'll fill your content with funny. On the other side, your home feed is only what you have followed, and it's so specific to you, down to the fact that like you could follow me for my family stuff but not my fashion. If you're like, I love seeing Vanessa's kids, but I'm just like not really into her outfits, you can follow someone for one value pillar of their content. So and in
cool.
that feed, you can filter in and out. You could say like, today I just want to see what, you know, my mom community in Phoenix is doing. The people I follow in the mom community, you can just choose that and see what they're doing. And the whole point is because we are all in different places in our lives, and algorithms can't really, like, they know a lot about you, a lot enough to trigger you to keep you in apps. But for example, if I'm like a runner and I'm going to run the Boston Marathon and I break my leg the week before, and then I go into my Instagram and all of a sudden it's like I'm targeted with content like Nike running and all my friends that are running the Boston Marathon, it's all on my face. But like, what if my mental health is suffering and I need to, like, what if I just want to look up book lists and heal? So being able to adjust what you're digesting through your social media is so important.
Yeah. I love that so much. And like we said, that's so important for generations, and that it's each day, because I know a lot of people will say, well, why wouldn't you just follow different accounts? Well, that doesn't work for day to day, and that doesn't work for the pillars that you're talking about as well. And even outside of the feeling high or low, or where it's something being triggering, certain times I just have an agenda to my content, right? I'm just trying to see something specific, whether, you know, I just spoke at an event this last week and I did go to a bunch of different influencer accounts when I was trying to pick outfits. And I was like, I just want to see the outfit content, the ones with links. Where are the ones with links? And then that way I could go and say, this, I want to see their outfits. That's what I want to see.
Right? Exactly. That's such a good example. Like, what if we just want to find an outfit for our next event? And it's like, you go to Instagram or social media and it's like so much information, it's hard to focus. And you know, there is one element where, so right now our platforms, they measure their success based on how long you're stuck in the app. And there's a lot of things they do to keep people there, whether people are aware of it or not. And one of them is giving you like a dopamine hit every few posts, so you keep scrolling. So whether it's like something that triggers you or it's something that's going to raise emotion and make your brain like spark every few posts. The other thing is the lack of focus. So when you can't focus, like it keeps you in there longer, but then it creates that feeling of when you close your social media app and you're like, what the hell did I just do? And why do I feel more tired than when I opened it? And I think that like almost all of us can relate to that feeling. And The thing is, it's because for marketing, for them to create revenue, they need to be able to say, like, this is how long people are going to be consuming. This is what they're going to be consuming. This is how we get ads in front of them. And their value is based on our attention span in the app. And I just thought, well, we also have a lot of people saying, okay, I got to detox for a month. I got to take this social media break. So if you're stuck in social media for like 5 hours a day, 10 hours a day, but then you're not going to go back in the app for 2 months, what kind of success metric is that? And we've got, then it's a mental health issue. So what if the app is focus, give people what they need, give them what they want, support their real life, best life. And then they're not in it as many hours a day, but don't need to take a break. Then they're not disappearing for 2 months and like feeling down.
Yeah. And because there's so much good that can come from social media. So when you take that social media break, you're also missing out on the good. You're missing out on the things that do light you up and do give you information and knowledge and community and all of that. Which community for yourself, like having community to build this, how important has that been to have people by your side to be like, hey, this, I've taken on quite the undertaking. I need my people, but also to kind of lead the way for you and give you, you know, feedback and advice. But then on the flip side, I'd love for you to also talk about, I'm sure that unless I'm unaware, there's no one that's built something just like this before, right? You're the first. So while you have people to guide and lead you, you also are the trailblazer. So they can only give you so much support. So talk to me about kind of like that balance of seeking support and knowing that no one really knows.
Right. I mean, that's a really good question. And like, I want to backtrack a little bit to earlier you said, like, I took on a hard path, and it brings me back to that. So your gut feeling versus logic. And often your gut's going to tell you like connect you to your values and give you a direction to take based on your values. And normally that's going to be the most successful route. It's also going to be the hardest route because logic will keep you safe. And like, I can honestly say when I was started on this adventure, this journey, you know, honestly, in full transparency, I had those thoughts where it was like, I'm not Elon Musk. I am not Steve Jobs. I am a suburban mom. I like cute outfits. I like literally have been terrified of public speaking up until recently, and I've been working on that. But just knowing those things about myself and being like, this is not for logic was like, yo, I see the numbers, I see the headlines, I see who you are. Like, you are a softie and you love everyone and you think like of all the good in the world. And it doesn't look like this is the space for you. I've never been in coding. Like, it just logically does not add up. And I knew that, and it really was heavy. And I don't know if it, like, side note, definitely look into the book Illogical by Emmanuel Acho. It is so good. And he talks a lot about how to become the best version of yourself, to be limitless, and to give your gifts to the world. You must be illogical. And so on that illogical track, I had to listen to that like Oprah moment in my gut and be like, okay, logic wants me to stay safe. Logic wants me scared. It wants me to hold me in a place of kind of fear, right?
Yeah.
Your gut's going to say, this is what's important to you. Like, you need to do this. And it's going to take you down those unpaved roads. And you're going to have moments where you're like, I definitely have moments where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. This is really hard. But I can always tap back into my gut. I can always tap back into my, why am I doing this? My personal value system, because every step towards in that direction is a successful step. And so if I personally have those like logic versus gut struggles and have to move through them and have this faith on steroids in myself, then naturally some people are just not going to see that vision. And that's okay. It says you're on the right path. if everyone got it, then you're probably like too late, to be honest. If everyone thought was just like, or they're just like people pleasing, because
Yeah.
it's okay for people not to get what you're doing, because again, it's the illogical move that's allowing you to move into your like limitless version. No one's seen this version of you yet. I haven't even seen this version of me yet.
Yeah.
So let's go. Like, let's find out who she is. Don't let anything hold you back. But my community, my husband, the women around me, my community around me has been such a support system in those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I don't, because there are moments where you're like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know what my next step. I'm not sure what to do in this specific situation. I'm learning, I'm being limitless, and having people next to you who are like, just keep going. You know what you do know. Like,
Yeah.
tap into your gut. You do know, and we've got your back and we believe in you. It's so powerful. So, I got off a call last week and I was like, we were talking about the different avenues of funding, and everything seemed like such a big project to me for a second. And I just sat there and I kind of got a tear in my eye. My husband was like, what's wrong? And I said, it's just, I don't know what my next step's going to be at this very moment. And he just like kissed me on the head and he's like, that's okay. You're not quitting though. Keep going. And sometimes that's all it takes. You just need someone to be like, but it's all right. This is one step in the right direction. So I just think having the right people around you is so important, because people cannot understand you. That's fine. But if they take steps to plant in your head that you're not good enough, or if they take steps to communicate to you that they think you're going to fail, the fact that they don't see that limitless version of you can be a cancer to your like faith in yourself. And it's a lot harder to get back up sometimes when you have that in your head that like you can't. You need a lot more yes you cans around you. We're not meant to see everyone's paths around us, but we see like people's hearts, and we see like who they are as human beings, and supporting that is huge. That enables people to really give their gifts. So that is my TED Talk. I feel like
so good though, because it's so good, because it is so important to understand, like, I even have people in my world that are like, I don't really know what you're doing, but like, I'm excited for you. And to be able to, not everyone's going to understand, not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to be like, oh, I'm ready to be your top investor. I'm going to sign up and do this, but they're like, but I love you. And then you have other people that are not helpful, that are not nice. And they're saying things like, well, you're going to fail. You can't do that. That are speaking negativity into you. What are some pieces of advice to quiet those people and find more people that are supporting you if they're not in your world yet? If for anyone that's listening, it's like, well, I don't have those people. I only have the loud, not nice people. What are some ways that you connect with good people?
Well, first of all, if you feel like there's a lot of doubters, or a lot of people putting their limits on you, like, just know that like nothing's permanent, that we all kind of have experienced those seasons where it feels really lonely and like we don't feel seen or understood. And that too will pass, and just stay walking in your authenticity and like what is important to you. Stay connected to your gut and like your values, because it literally magnetizes the right people to you. But more concretely, blocking is like fabulous way to remove those people. They don't know. But if you're not waking up, and if you are waking up and seeing things from those people that are pulling you down, or making you feel like maybe you aren't your limitless version, or you can't, then that needs to go. And you can even, I know it's I know it's a lot of gray, like relationships are all different. So you very much so can block people and still like see them occasionally, or block them on social media, but maybe only send an email or a text here and there, or you can block them completely. I have had to do that with family members where they are blocked on everything because, they've reached out and said, I think you're going to fail, straight up. And so I just can't have that in my life. And so that can't be showing up in my email first thing in the morning when I have big things to do and, people to love.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't fill my cup. So I highly recommend 10 out of 10 blocking people in any way you need to. And then walking in your like realness, like letting people not understand you. It's okay if those people don't get you. Like that's 100% okay, because you will find the people who do get you. And like you said, there's people out there who may not be your biggest investor or whatever that like financially, but they will be the people, or maybe they don't totally understand what you're building, but they will say, I believe in you. I'm here for you. If you're having a rough day, let's get coffee, or, I'm clapping too. That was such a win. Make sure you celebrate tonight. And so I'm so grateful to have like people like you in my life who are like that. I had a bad day. You sent me like a credit for Starbucks. It was absolutely like, I felt so hugged, and I think that makes all the difference. So meeting people like that often is putting yourself in rooms, in person until social media. I mean, social media is honestly can be a great way to find other people. But nothing replaces in-person communication. So if you have a way of doing like an event like Powerhouse Women, or I know you did an event, Mama Has Goals, and our friend Christine, the Illume in Denver, there's just these great communities of women who want to see like what happens when you succeed, not like if. They're there standing there like, I see all the great things about you today and what you are growing into.
Yeah. The other thing you reminded me of is sometimes you just have to go first. Like, I always remind myself, am I supporting the people that I want support from? And, I am so happy that coffee made you feel hugged. That's what I wanted to do. And it was a little gesture, but since I've had hard days, and you've totally been there for me, right? And not that you have such a big heart, not that you wouldn't have been if I hadn't done that, but it probably helped being like, hey, this girl like actually cares about me, so I'm going to care about her too.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to go first, and if you don't have the people in your circle that you feel like are lifting you up in that way, like think about who can you pour some love into in the meantime so that they know that you care about them.
Right. You really do open doors. When I started out doing this blog, I have a lot of people ask me like, oh, how'd you grow? And Instagram was a little bit of a different place when I was growing, but it was one of the things I learned in interpersonal communications that I feel is so powerful in all parts of our lives. And it's the law of reciprocity. And it's that when you give and when you connect outwards to people, when you go first, like you said, people are drawn to do the same for you. And so when I started growing my Instagram, I literally just sought out other women and people who seemed to have the same interests as me, and I supported them. And they in turn supported me back. And that is honestly how that like snowball started. I lost a headphone. That snowball started. I'm going to get it. 1 second. Rolling. But to your point, that works in business so much, and in friendships, where just like taking that first step is so powerful.
Yeah. And for people that feel like they can't block everyone, or they can't block the world, right? Sometimes the world is just really hard. Like life is just really hard. It might not even be just like another person. I know that you just shared something the other day that you say in the mornings. And so maybe you want to share that here. And if there's anything else that you do that just like allow you to kind of make sure that the world isn't bringing you down each day outside of really good positive content filtering on the F Word app, what are some things that you do in your home?
So yeah, that's a good point. Every morning I wake up, and once again, referencing Oprah here, I learned from her to wake up and say thank you. So every morning I wake up and I say thank you. That is literally my first thought every morning. To start your day with this like gratitude, like I get to live this day. And then the second thing is I put my hand on my heart and I say, I love you. Because if you're starting your day from a place where you are loved, without a doubt, you are loved without a doubt, ironclad, so loved. Whatever you walk into that day, whatever hardships, you walk into it already loved. It's like one of those like sounds on social media that's like, I don't care if you like me because I like me. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you have to start it, or not you, but like for me, starting my day from that space is like so hopeful. Because, yeah, sometimes days are really hard. Sometimes it feels like the world's working against you. Yeah. And I've done a lot of inner work to almost like reparent that child inside, where you have to almost let yourself know, like, you let your inner child know, no matter what happens today, like, I love you, no matter what. And I believe in you and you're safe. And I feel like that sounds very heavy in a way, but I think we need more of that. Just feeling loved and safe from minute one of your day.
Yeah.
Other things, I don't know though.
Well, I heard your daughter speak. She was helping run mics for an event that we were both at last year, the Powerhouse Women event. And someone had said something and she came back and she said, well, you can allow someone to make you feel the way they make you feel, or something like that. And so you have ingrained so much of this into your kids. You've led by example. Like I said at the beginning, I truly think you're such an amazing mom. I've seen so many different ways of you navigating that just time and time again, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to take notes every time I hear Vanessa talk about being a mom. What are some of the things that have really stood out for you? Are there any practices, you know, I know from mindset and confidence all the way down to entrepreneurship and really helping your kids cultivate whatever they really want to do with no pressure if they do or don't? What are some of the things that you really try to come back to? Are there any like core values or pillars or activities that you do to really do that? Or is it just kind of situational?
Partially situational, but something that sticks out to me is I grew up in a house where like perfection was a thing. So I felt like a failure a lot because I wasn't like perfect enough. And that gets ingrained almost in you. So I became this like people pleasing, like perfectionist that I had to really look at and address. And so sometimes by default, if something isn't going right, I tend to feel like I'm messing up. And what I've learned is like accepting that mess up as just part of the flow of life teaches our kids to accept like the downs in addition to the ups, and not to tie their self-worth to it. Not to feel like they're not enough just because, you know, they didn't have a good baseball game, you know, or football game. And so like that ties into like actions as a parent really do speak louder than words. So like also following my dreams and doing this app, no matter how difficult or much I can't see the entire path ahead of me, and figuring things out along the way and celebrating my small wins teaches them to do exactly that, to believe in their gut and feel their gut and be like, okay, I know this is for me. I don't have to have it all figured out. I can not be perfect. I can flow with it, and I can celebrate these small wins, and that will keep moving me forward, because I truly think that's what life is for almost all of us, is like trusting our gut, taking our steps each day, and to do that in a way where it feeds our soul and we feel empowered to keep taking those steps, versus closing up and being like, oh, well, I wasn't good enough. So I really do practice remembering that I don't have to be perfect. I just am. You simply are a role model for your kids simply by being you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I love that. I actually saw this post the other day on social media, and I think this is a perfect example of just kind of like what the F word will help create. And it said something like, do it because your kids deserve a mom to brag about. And I had really conflicting feelings about it. Like, I had one side of me that was like, yeah, do that because, you know, show your kids, lead your kids. And then the other side of me was like, well, your kids are going to brag about you for just being you. But that's really the underlining thing, right? Are you being you? Allow your kids to just brag about you being you. But if you're not being you, then that is hard. And it doesn't mean that you have to hit some specific achievement or do something in particular. You don't have to do that to be brag worthy as a mom. But are you being you? And are you following your dreams and just leading whatever that is for you? And I think this is exactly an example of you doing that. And obviously so much of what we advocate for here at Mama Has Goals, but you're just truly living it. And I mean, I've seen your daughters start living it out in so many different ways. And I think that's so exciting.
I always tell her I'm the supporting character in her story, in her movie. Like, sometimes I just feel like I'm the supporting actress and she's the main character. My kids are the main character, really. I'm along for the ride.
But I mean, that's how it should be, right? Each person should be the main character in their own journey, in their own story. And you're the supporting act in theirs, but they're the supporting act in yours.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't mean to keep bringing up the hard days, but I feel like those are the teaching moments. And I had a hard day one day, and I sat down on the couch and I kind of had a tear go down my face, and Blake was sitting next to me and he was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "It was just really hard." And he just, he's 9, and he looked at me and he just goes, he actually whispered, he goes, "It's all going to be worth it." He goes, "It's all going to be worth it." And I was like, oh, you're right. So they're supporting actors in our story too. They feel you when you stay in your authenticity. They see you. And like you said, it's brag worthy just by you taking your steps to be completely who you are, because it allows them to be completely who they are in all of their different ways. And then there's moments that aren't brag worthy, and that's okay too. Like, accepting that too. Like, I have plenty of moments that are not brag worthy, and that's okay. And that's part of life, because I think we see social media and like every moment looks brag worthy, but that's like a facade. Like, we are all living a life that has ups and downs and ins and outs, and we're flowing through it.
Yeah. So before we end today, though, with that is, I hear you talk a lot about trusting your gut and manifesting, right? So you can trust your gut to take the next step. We talked a little bit about that, and we talk about taking action on your vision. But what are some of the ways that we can kind of normal life manifest, in the sense of how you're teaching your kids like positive words, like your words are what they become, speaking positively of yourself, and also in creating what it is that you're creating and speaking that into existence. Talk a little bit about that, because from someone that was newer to kind of the ideation of manifesting your hopes and dreams, when I see you talk about your real life practice of what that looks like, to me, it's a little more digestible, because it's like, no, I just like live in this energy. It's not like this big whole thing that I take on. Right.
Right. Absolutely. It's literally, to put it the most simple way, it's knowing in your gut what is going to make you happy, and then believing the possibility of it. And that is just like continuously like breathing life into that belief. And it's crazy. I have my vision board right here. I recently like printed it out, but it says like my computer. But my word for the year was limitless. And I told you guys that like I'm so scared of public speaking, so I put this right here. It's like a girl speaking. And literally like within a week of making this board for 2023, I had someone reach out and say, "Will you come speak at our retreat?" And so I was like, "Absolutely." But then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so scared." So, so it's, I mean, I worked through it, and that's a longer story because what happened was I needed to address my personal limits and what was making me fearful of those steps. But it is really powerful to visualize, just like put together visualizations but the point is believing that's for you, just believing that the best is for you, that if it's in your mind, it's in there for a reason, and having reminders around you on your desk, like look around and be like, okay, this, I am attracting this. And I'd like to point out too, if you can brainstorm a little bit about your life where you felt something was for you and where it came true, maybe not on your timeline, maybe it looked a little different than what you thought. Oh, I have a funny story. I was thinking about this recently. Last year on my vision board, so my dream my whole life has been to be in Vogue. I don't know. It's just been always my dream. It was on my vision board last year. It's been my whole life. And a month ago or a couple weeks ago, I had to scrub the internet for pictures of myself because my identity was stolen. And so I wanted to see where my pictures were coming up on what websites. And lo and behold, someone took like a photographer for Getty or for Vogue and for Harper's Bazaar, took pictures of me at a fashion week that I was not aware of. And I was in 3 countries of Vogue's and 2 countries of Harper's Bazaar online that I had no idea ever happened. And that was like 3 years ago. And I'm like, okay, that's not how I pictured it. Like I pictured like my glamorous Vogue shoe and like talking about the F word, and like maybe that will be someday, but it happened. It's not how I thought it was going to happen. It's not in the timeline I thought it was going to happen, and it looked a little different, but it happened. So I challenge you to think about like your life and how you've known things are for you, or certain things light you up, and how those things show up in your life. Because if you can write those down, you can refer to them. It's almost like a manifestation, like a faith cheat sheet, like faith in myself cheat sheet, where you're like, okay, I know I wanted to be in Vogue. I was in Vogue. I wanted to public speak, and I public spoke. These are the things I want for myself. How did they show up in my life? Because it gives you your logic some fuel to expand beyond fear. So yeah, that's the gist of my mentality when it comes to. Also, I'm a kinetic thinker. I walk, and I get ideas when I walk and I move and I'm outside. So I highly suggest if you're feeling like stagnant, or if you're feeling like things aren't materializing, walk outside. Best you can. Connect with the elements, even if it's raining, or like connect outside, walk. It creates like motion in a way. It's symbolic almost of like creating motion in your life and walking in the right direction when you like are able to do that.
Yeah. And I like so much of what you said of having that kind of a guide that you go back to, because sometimes things happen and we don't actually realize that we even hit our goal or our dream because we didn't put it in front of us and measure it in that same way. So I think that is so important. And I think also having things that aren't just about like you and just your dreams and goals. And I know this is so big for you. You and your family are a part of so many different communities or just other people's dreams, and how you can really make an impact beyond yourself. And that's truly what the F word is too. What you're creating is to make an impact. But what I also love about the F word is you're allowing people to be a part of it from the get-go. And you're allowing them to really step in and say, hey, you can be a part of changing the game for social media too. You can be a part of making this come to fruition and really being kind of a founding portion of this. Talk a little bit about how they can do that.
Yes. So as a personal value, I really want to get away from like the one big man benefiting from how things work on social media. And I'd like for it to be more of a community built by community, because honestly, social media really it is the sum of the people who are involved and on it. So what we did is we built out a crowdfunding initiative. And right now, anybody who funds the F word, which could be, it could be $1, it could be like any amount, is a founding member of the F word and will be a founding member of this platform, which is so much more about the people on it and not the person overseeing it. And that is, I think, what we need to get away from is like the one company or person overseeing our social interactions versus us being empowered within the app. So yes, we are crowdfunding. And it's so important, actually. Like, we are highly reliant on people not only funding, but sharing the mission and being a part of the mission. Social media is so social. It's about our connection, not just when the app is in your hands, but like beforehand too, and building it on that vibe. So on the F Word app, the website's the fword.app. There's a crowdfunding page on there, and you can crowdfund through there. There's levels too, so if you want to, you can fund at $100 and be the first person, one of the first people that gets the beta version. And there's a level above that too. But like I said, you can literally give $1 or 10 cents. It's more about bringing us all together and moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So definitely go be a part of that. There's literally no reason not to be a part in whatever you can put to be a part of it, because I just think it's so cool. Like, being a part of something that is going to change the world, and not just for us. Like, you know, this whole community of Mama Has Goals is not just about us. It's about the future generations. And if we don't come in and change social media right now, there's nothing better that is going to make it better for our kids. And the mental health crisis is real. It's hard. I think that every person I've talked to within the last year, for sure, but even 6 months, every person I've talked to in the last 6 months knows someone that is severely struggling with their mental health or has taken their life. And we need to be a part of changing that. That can't be the reality. And having a better platform for people to consume better content, have a vibe check, all of that is so, so, so important. So I highly encourage you to be a part of this movement and take action with whatever you can. So again, just say the website one more time for us, Vanessa, and it'll also be in the show notes.
It's the fword.app. And you can also go to, on Instagram, we have a page. So it's the F Word app on Instagram too, if it makes it easier for you, and the website's right there.
And where else can they connect with you on Instagram?
And I'm
get your
Leave
cute
It Classy.
outfits.
You can get my outfit links on I'm Leave It Classy, and I share a little more about like fashion and my day-to-day on there. I haven't been sharing as much of my kids after my identity was stolen. So again, yes, we need the F word, because that's a whole nother discussion on like these fake accounts catfishing with your identity and you don't even know about it. But yes, so I'm on We the Classy too. And I would love to connect with everyone. I am obviously very passionate about bringing people together just as you are. So I am so grateful to be a part of your community.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Vanessa. And we will definitely have to have you back for a part 2 and get an update. And maybe we'll do like a special Mama Has Goals F Word Investors episode. So make sure that you are within the crowdfunding effort so that you can be a part of that. Anything else you want to say before we get ready for part 2, Vanessa?
No,
for part 1? I
gotta prep for part 2.
I know.
Gosh, not really. I am so grateful to have had this space to just speak my heart and show up authentically here. So I just always want to say like, thank you for letting me be a part of your day and letting me be a part of like the Mama Has Goals community day. Because I just think like when we're able to do that, so many good things happen. So I really, really, really am grateful and I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm honored to have you here. And like I said, I just look up to you in so many ways. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Until part 2.
Until part 2. To be continued.